Hi everyone, today we are going to start reviewing for the semester 1 final exam. Okay, so this first question asks us to find the coordinates of the midpoint of a segment that has endpoints at 4, 7, and negative 2, 9. So first let's talk about what a midpoint is. So a midpoint is the point exactly in the middle. And if you have the two endpoints, there's actually a formula that we can use to find the midpoint. And that formula looks like this. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So we can use this formula to plug in some values. So I like to always go back and label my coordinates x1, y1, x2, y2, and then we just need to substitute. So we do x1, which is 4, plus x2, which is negative 2, divided by 2, and then y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And now we just need to simplify, so we'll start with the numerator. 4 plus negative 2 is 2. 7 plus 9 is 16. And then in one more step, we have our answer. So the midpoint is at 1, 8. And remember, all coordinates have an x and a y value and should have parentheses. Okay, so let's check out this next problem. It says, using the figure below, choose a pair of acute vertical angles. So there's two words that we need to look at here. The first one is acute. So acute means less than 90 degrees. And let me rewrite that. It looks a little sloppy. And another good one to know, even though it's not in this problem, is the word obtuse, and that means greater than 90 degrees. And then the other word we need to talk about is vertical. So vertical angles is a lot easier just to kind of draw a picture. So vertical angles come from two intersecting lines, and the vertical angles are across from each other. So for example, these are vertical angles, what I just did in red, or these would be vertical angles, what I did in blue. So if we want to find a pair, and remember a pair means a set of two, well, the first thing I can do is cross out angle 5, because angle 5 is greater than 90 degrees, so it is not acute. So now I need to look for two intersecting lines that go all the way through. So the only two lines that continue on are these two. So I can say that angle 1 and angle 4 are my acute vertical angles. Okay, so let's take a look at this problem. This says, using the figure below, choose the angle that is supplementary to angle 1. So let's talk about what supplementary means. Supplementary means that the angles add up to 180 degrees. So if you want to find an angle that is supplementary to angle 1, here's angle 1, you have to find the one other angle where when you add them up, it would equal 180. So when you're looking for supplementary lines, a really nice thing, or supplementary angles, a good thing to look for is a straight line. Because straight lines, the measurement of a straight line is 180 degrees. So if I look at the picture, the only other angle that would create a straight line with angle 1 would be right here. So that would be angle 5. So angle 5 and angle 1 are supplementary. Okay, so this problem says, in the figure below, name 3 collinear points. So collinear simply means on the same line. So in this figure, there are actually a lot of collinear points, but there's only one way to find 3 points that are on the same line. So you can find that right here. So it would be points A, E, and F. Those are the only 3 collinear points. Okay, this next problem says, in the figure below, name a point that is not coplanar with point A, B, and D. So let's talk about what coplanar means so we can figure out what not coplanar means. So coplanar means on the same plane. So let's look at where A, B, and D are. So A is right here, B is right here, and D is right here. So the plane that they are on is, if you picture it as a box, would be that side of the box. So we want any point that is not on that plane. So there's actually a few options here. You could say point E or F or G. Any of these points are acceptable answers because none of them are on the same plane as A, B, and D. Okay, so this problem says on a line segment, point B is between points A and C. So really quick, let's talk about what between means. Between simply means somewhere in the space. So it's really important that we all understand that between does not mean the exact middle. Between is a more general term, so it's not the exact middle. So let's draw out this scenario and then we can start labeling it. So here's my line segment and it says point B is somewhere between. So I'm going to put B right here and here's A and here's C. Now we don't really know exactly where point B is, so I'm just putting it somewhere in the space, but we do not know that it's in the exact middle. So it says find the value of x given that AB is 2x plus 1 and BC is 3x and AC, that's this entire line segment, is 46. So this is a scenario where I like to say we can create an equation by doing small part plus small part equals big part. So one of my small segments is AB, and the other small segment is BC. So if you add up those two segments, you get A to C. So now let's substitute. We know that AB is 2x plus 1. We know that BC is 3x, and we know that AC is 46. So now all we need to do is solve. So let's combine like terms. So we get 5x plus 1 equals 46. Subtract 1 from both sides. And divide both sides by 5. And we get x equals 9. Now before we box our answer, let's go back and double check what they were asking. They were asking us to find the value of x. So that's exactly what we did. So x equals 9 is our answer. But just make sure that you're actually asking the question that, or answering the question that they were asking. Okay, so here we have a line segment and point M is the midpoint of LP. So I just want to remind you guys that midpoint means exact middle. The other nice thing to remember about midpoints is since it's exactly in the middle, whenever you have a midpoint, it actually creates two congruent parts. Now remember, this symbol right here means congruent, which really just means equal. So if you have a midpoint, you know that the two parts that it creates are going to be equal. So here's our line segment, LP, and it says M is the midpoint, so I'm going to put it as close to the middle as I can, and I'm going to mark the two segments with these dashes showing that they are congruent. That's really important to being able to solve this problem. So now let's label it. It says LM is 7x, MP is 6x plus 4, and they would like us to find the length of LP. So just keep that in mind. We're not just solving for x. So here, since we have already marked that the two segments are congruent, that literally means they're equal to each other. So there's the equation that we can do. Now to solve it, let's subtract 6x from both sides. And let's say our answer is x equals 4. Now remember, they are not asking us to find x. They're asking us to find the length of LP. So let's go back and look at what LP is. LP is the entire line segment. So LP is going to be LM plus MP. So let's substitute. It's going to be 7x plus 6x plus 4. And we know that x is equal to 4. So you have to be really careful to go back and remind yourself which part you're actually trying to find. So we have 28 plus 24 plus 4. So LP will equal 56. And now we can box our answer. So just remember, when you see the word midpoint, not only is it in the exact middle, but it also is creating two congruent parts. And you can use that fact to help you make an equation. All right, here, so it says in the figure below, find x. So for this, really all you need to know is what this nice little box means. So just remember, whenever you see this box around an angle, it means that that angle is 90 degrees. Well, I see that that 90-degree angle is split up into two parts. So we can say 75 plus x, small part plus small part equals big part, which is 90. And then we can just subtract 75 from both sides, and we get x equals 15 degrees. Sounds pretty straightforward as long as you know what that box symbolizes. Okay, here it says the measure of an angle is 2x minus 5 degrees, and its complement is 8x plus 15. Find the value of x. So let's talk about what a complement is, and it goes with the word complementary. So remember, supplementary is when the two angles add up to 180. Complementary is when the angles add up to 90 degrees. So if I want to find the measure of the complement, or if I know its complement is 8x plus 15, I can say that they must add up to 90 degrees. So 2x minus 5 plus 8x plus 15 equals 90. Okay, let's combine like terms. So we're left with 10x plus 10 equals 90. Then we're going to subtract 10 from both sides and divide both sides by 10. X equals 8. Go back and check. They're asking you to find the value of x, which means we're done. Okay, here we're asked to provide a counterexample to the conditional statement below. So let's do a quick reminder of what a counterexample is. A counterexample essentially just proves that a statement is not true. So you can't just say, hey, that's not true. You have to say that's not true because, and then provide a counterexample. So the statement says, if an angle is not acute, then it must be obtuse. So just a quick reminder, acute means less than 90 degrees, and obtuse means greater than 90 degrees. So they're claiming that if an angle is not acute, it must be obtuse. This statement is false, and our counter example could be that the angle is a right angle. And hopefully remember that a right angle is exactly in 90 degrees. So just because it's less than 90 doesn't mean it has to be greater than 90. It could also be exactly 90. So that's our counterexample. All right, last problem. This says the transitive property states that if angle A is congruent to angle B and angle B is congruent to angle C, what can we conclude from that? So this actually is a really nice, just straight definition of the transitive property. If two things are congruent to the same thing, they are also congruent to each other. So from this, we can conclude that angle A is congruent to angle C because they're both congruent to angle B. Okay, that is all for day 1 of the semester 1 final exam review.